Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome once again to the Meat and Potato Show, Conservative Talk at Awesome Rock. I, of course, am your host, Christopher Maynard. And since 2008, when the Meat and Potato Show first went on air at WCUW, I have been conducting an ongoing series I call Candidate Interviews. I have had the pleasure to speak with well over 100 different candidates from all parties, from all different levels, within their campaigns, within the elections, from all across the country. And 2014 is turning out to be the best year ever for this series. I now have had the pleasure and the honor of being invited to candidate events, and I cover some of those events, not only for the show, but for the Worcester Herald online newspaper, and just to give the candidates themselves some exposure. And what has happened is a win-win for both the candidates and my show. I now have candidates actually reaching out to me for my show. I see them in my emails, and in turn, my show makes their interview and the campaign viral over the social network. My show gets exposure, and the candidate gets exposure. This has culminated into what I'm doing on August 30th, which is going to happen right here at the Liberty Clubhouse on August 30th, an event known as a candidate symposium. To date, right now, there are over a dozen candidates who have responded to the invitation on the event page itself. I've also been given information from sources that there are at least 5 or 6 other candidates from the Libertarian Party who will show up, as well as a few Democrats who are going to show up as well. And this is not going to be a debate. This is a forum where we all get to sit down. Everybody knows what the problems are. We're not going to be giving everybody any gotcha questions or trying to pigeonhole anybody into their position or another person's position. Again, we all know what the problems are. And it's a chance for all of us to sit down and to bring some civility back into this election process. I have one presidential candidate for 2016 who will be calling in on Skype. I have another former senatorial candidate calling in on conference call from Texas, and I'm working on getting another one from Florida and another one from Oregon, all of who have been on the show. Now, getting to that, my guest here today is running for state representative on the Republican ticket here in the state of Massachusetts, and she is running out of the 2nd district that covers parts of Franklin County. And ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show, Karen Anderson. Welcome, Karen.
Hello.
Thank you so much for coming on to the show. Karen, you and I were talking off the microphone. You weren't really sure how to answer this, but I'm still going to ask it because it really is germane to even your campaign and all the campaigns. We see not only a federal government and the legislators, what I call going off the rails. They're quite literally making things up off the top of their head. They're quite literally just passing legislation without concern about their constitution. We look at what went on with the automatic gasoline tax here in Massachusetts, and of course the Massachusetts residents formed the petition to get that going. And we see Governor Deval Patrick just sitting on the sidelines as far as the immigration problem is concerned. Again, our legislatures are they're just doing whatever they want to do. And I want to ask you the core question: what has happened to the process here in Massachusetts, as well as our country itself?
Part of it is that a lot of them are representing themselves. They're not going out and representing the people. So they become a politician to represent more politicians instead of representing what our peoples have needs for. And we can see that with, as you mentioned, the gas tax, this automatic gas tax put on us, which is an inflationary tax, which continues without end, without the vote of the people, which is representation is missing from the people. Taxation without representation was our first Boston Tea Party. And so when you have someone who's playing the role of king instead of playing the role of governor, you run into this. There's a lot of people that get, they say too big for their britches, or they take on this, I'm a politician and you can't say anything against me, or I escape the law. And part of that, Obama is showing that he's above the law. He's already gone above Congress and released these terrorists back out without the people's consent, without even permission, which he was supposed to have from Congress. So it is pervading those that are, and they're not representing the people, and I was asked to run because I am planning on representing our 12 towns.
Really, it almost seems like it's planned. They planned this. They know exactly what they're doing, don't they?
I believe that the people are letting them, because people are talking into. I have said to other people, it is very important that you vote the person and not just the party. And the response to me by one person who does not live in Massachusetts, thankfully, was no, 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 you have to vote the party because the person can't make any difference. It's whatever the party decides, that's what's going to happen. And I said, well, how do we change that? And he just stood there looking at me and says, I don't know, I don't know. And that's why I'm running, because I'm running to represent our area. In our government here in Massachusetts, in the State House, we have the power to represent our people. We have the power to speak up and say something that will help or hurt. And our voice for or against will make a difference because we do have that.
Well, that's interesting. They say that we have to vote the party, and this brings me into my next question about how I've been covering. I told you again off mic that I see all the people that are out there running, and everyone seems to be showing up everywhere. We constantly see, again, this grassroots thing seems to be the way to go as far as a campaign is concerned. Some of the incumbents, even some of the opponents, are just kind of sitting on the sidelines. They're collecting that big fundraiser money. They're showing up at the scheduled events, the staged events. But again, that brings us back to we're not voting for the person anymore. We're voting for the party. Whereas people like you, and I've seen many other candidates out there, you guys are actually going out there and addressing the people and basically putting yourself out there as true representatives, aren't you?
As a mother of 6, I've been in the public for a very long time with my children at different events. My youngest is 3, my oldest will be 25 in another 2 weeks. Because of this and taking care of my grandmothers, I took care of one till she was 94.
You're a busy lady.
She was 94 and she's in heaven. My other grandmother's 89 and I still take care of her. When you are out with the people, all the time communicating with them, it's nothing to go back out and talk with them again and get why they want you to represent them in Boston, what their issues are. Instead of myself, I could be sending them my opinion in the mail. This is my opinion, I'll send it to you. If you want to vote for me, vote for this opinion. Then that would be representing me. That's not what it's about. I'm out there door to door with the people because I want to hear from them why they want someone to represent them in Boston, what their concerns are. I've got 12 towns I'm going through. With those 12 towns, every town has a different issue. Just like a mother with all 6 kids, every child has something different. And yet there are things that are common threads amongst us. And one of those in our 12 towns is that we have a third of our towns approximately are seniors.
What you're hearing. What are you hearing from these people? Yeah,
with a third of our towns being seniors, I'm hearing that they are being left out and neglected. In our area, some of the driveways are half-mile, quarter-mile long driveways. When our current state representative suggests that we're going to put a device on our vehicles to track our miles so we can be taxed for them, an open road tax, this is not taking into consideration.
I can see that. Yeah, in the rural parts. I just took a vacation out to Tolland State Forest, and and I've been out to Western Mass I'm 50 years old. I've been out there a million times in my life, and I'm always hit with that. You can't drive. It's like here in Worcester, you can drive 50 feet and you hit a store. Whereas somewhere out there in Western Massachusetts, you've got to drive 3, 4, 5, sometimes 10 miles just to get to the grocery store. And then you've got to, like you said, you've got to drive up your mile-long driveway to get to your house that's up in the woods. Yeah,
and to penalize people for having that driveway. Because what it is, you're suggesting that you're going to tax them for driving their own driveway. That is not representing our seniors. And our towns, like I said, are about a third of them are seniors. So when she would make that suggestion, she stopped representing our area. We have another third of the towns that are either on fixed income, such as disability or welfare. When you've got 2/3 of the towns being on this fixed income and 1/3 bringing in the taxes support for jobs and things that they're getting the income tax from, your towns are out of balance. When your towns are out of balance, you need the local aid.
Yes.
That's what it is. Chapter 70 and 90 funds are called local aid for a reason. And the reason they were made was because when your towns are out of balance, you need that financial aid until your town can get back on its feet.
And it's not like areas out there in Western Massachusetts are hubs of economic opportunity. I mean, I know there's jobs out there there's some jobs. But again, you come from that area, I've been out in that area, these are very rural areas, even right here in Massachusetts, which is here in Metro West and here in the Northeast area. But even for these people themselves, it's very difficult for them just to make ends meet, isn't it?
Our towns are more the north central area of Massachusetts, and we do drive. For a reason, I'm taking my grandmother 35,
yeah, it's very
45
rural.
minutes just to the doctors.
Yeah.
And many of them, as I said, a third being seniors, you're going 35 and 45 minutes to the doctors. That's a considerable distance, and you're already being feed to death by Deval Patrick raising all the fees if you're going to renew your driver's license, your license plates, all those fees just went up beginning in July.
I know, I was at that meeting.
So when you're doing that already to the seniors, especially in our area, and you're not looking out for their needs, you're not protecting them, well, this is why I was asked to.
What are these guys thinking? I mean, are they thinking? What?
Well, California's trying this road tax that you pay for the mile. They are trying it other places. It's not new to our current state representative. It is an open road tax, but it's, I said, there's other ways that we are already doing this, and it's not because we need that revenue. In 2013, they pulled in over $500 million.
Yeah, it's
$500 million in Boston above estimated revenue came in.
Sure, right.
And instead of paying off debt, they went and opened and spent more on more accounts. We've got free money now. Let's dip into this instead of putting it on things that they should have been spending down on debt.
Now, getting back to what you said about people, about voting party and as opposed to voting to the person, do you see a sea change as you're talking to these people out there that there's, and I don't mean other representatives or other core constituents that are out there working in campaigns, but I mean the average person that you talk to on the street, when you're in your parades and you're doing your event and you shake their hands, are you seeing, even Democrats or independents,
Absolutely.
are you seeing that sea
Absolutely.
change? Because I've talked about this with
Yes.
you other candidates, so please go ahead.
It's going across the whole country.
Right.
And it is in
Yeah,
Massachusetts
the whole thing's
too.
gonna flip, I think.
People are very upset with the way things are being held, and Democrats are coming up to me, as well as Republicans, as well as the unenrolled, and are saying, you know what, we're tired of what's been going on, we're tired of not being represented, and we like what you have to say. And so, yes, I have been supported by verbal and financial with all three parties.
Good, great, and that's great that you said that about financial. I don't need to know the minutia of what's going on with finances, but how are things? Because usually when the incumbent is when you go up and against an incumbent or anybody goes up against one, usually the incumbent has a machine already set up.
She does,
Yeah,
and that's
already has.
how she got reelected the second time.
Right, and
So-
this brings me back to what I said about how you're out there. You're everywhere. You're out there in the streets. I mean, you have to pound the pavement. You actually have to do the sweat work to get out there and make this happen. And how are you balancing that? How are you able to meet their big machine vis-a-vis your grassroots campaign?
It isn't easy, but
Yeah.
but because of several things, our area is very suppressed. As I mentioned, with the third being seniors, they have that fixed income. So when you get that letter from that grandma who says, "I only have $5 extra, honey, but I want you to have it,"
I get that all the time.
touches you.
That's
Yes,
amazing.
it does.
I see
And
it
that's-
all the time.
Yes, and that's the kind of support that I'm getting. It's meaningful support. It's not $100 in spare cash in the back room. This is the hard-earned money that they're being very careful with their budgets, and they want you to have it because they believe that you could make that change for them, that you could help them out. And I have taken the No New Taxes pledge. Chip Faulkner has it from the Citizens for Limited Taxation, and I have signed that, and that made a big difference. I have a gentleman that's 73 in Athol, has never put up a political sign in his life. And he said, when you said that you would raise no new taxes, he says, that struck a chord with me. He says 2.5% every single year, the maximum the state will allow, our towns have been doing. His income does not go up 2.5% every
Yeah,
year.
and it's still, even that 2.5%, because it's automatic and it's just kind of goes into every single budget, I mean, that has a serious impact on, like you said, seniors, even working poor.
Yes.
And we can talk all we want about the people who live off the system, but even that affects them as well.
Absolutely.
That reduces their purchasing power.
Absolutely.
And how does this, when you see that, how does that affect you emotionally? I know you want to run as a state rep. You want to serve. I'm not going to hold back here. There are always career things that people always think about when they want to do this. But when you see that emotionally, how does that hit you?
having taken care of both of my grandmothers, as I said, one until she passed away, she would be actually 100 this year. I understand those needs, and that's why it strikes me even more so when you see that someone has given you $5 because that's all they've got. They need to be protected. They're going to be, their incomes are shrinking because they have to spend more on medicine. They have to spend more on travel to get to the doctors. The older they get, obviously, there's more health needs usually that occur with that. And to have those golden years be golden years anymore, to be barely getting by years, it really it hurts. It hurts, and it hurts our whole town. And so I've been asked that I would step up because I have been. When you take my grandmother she has macular degeneration, and those eye doctor visits are 2 and 3 hours long, and most of them seniors. 45 minutes, exactly.
Right.
And so we drive 45 minutes. We're sitting there with the seniors, and you know what we do? We talk, and we communicate with one another, and they say, "This is the way things used to be. This is the way we wish they were this way here now, but this is the way we hope they'll be." And you can learn from them. They are full of knowledge and they know things. And so we sit and we have these conversations. And it's a wealth of knowledge, and I'm passing it down to my children. I hope they've many times they've sat with their grandparents and great aunts and uncles. I have a
You're telling a familiar story. I'm the last of 6 kids, and I have a huge family. My mother's passed on. My grandparents, of course, have passed on. But I had that great opportunity to grow up hearing all of that from the past. And I think this is one of the things that has led me to develop what I'm doing here, to try to, try to somehow either revisit it or hold on to it, or somehow bestow that back upon the younger generation, that there was once a time here in America that things, and even though we had difficult problems even then, there was still opportunity. I remember, there was a time in America in the 50s, just after World War II, the 50s throughout the 60s, you couldn't swing a cat without hitting something that said "Made in the USA."
Yeah.
And whereas today in the United States, everybody is like, "Where are the jobs? Where are the jobs?" And here in Massachusetts, I know there are some jobs, but this was a place where the mills, the fabric industry, the steel industry was even here, not necessarily manufacturing steel, but the manufacturing of steel products was here.
Correct.
We look at Lowell, we
Even during the
look at
Civil War.
Haverhill, exactly.
Even
Lowell, Haverhill, the areas in Metro West. Now we drive through these areas, even out in Western Mass, we see they're nothing but just bricked up, boarded up buildings.
Absolutely.
Where is all of this stuff now?
The
Is that
manufacturing left. We were called the mill towns for a reason. In the Second Franklin District, many of those towns are mill towns. We have the Millers River that runs through several of our towns. And what it was manufacturing. When you have manufacturing, the people have the money to go to the restaurants, which keep those businesses alive. They have money to go get that extra ice cream.
It's called trickle-down economics.
Absolutely. They have money to spend at the mom and pop shops.
Right.
You can put as many mom and pop shops into your downtown area, but they will not survive because the people do not have the extra money.
That's right. The jobs.
There are some places that do have manufacturing in Massachusetts. Right now, my oldest is going to be 25, and he works in Clinton, and he works for Nipro, and Nipro does manufacture here in Massachusetts, and that is a thriving company. There can be done. The problem we have is Boston with their fees and the regulations.
Yeah, taxation.
Even in the town of Athol, again, I'm talking with the owners there of the businesses, and they say, look, we have a fee for putting a sign out that what our name of our business is. We have a fee to put things out in front of our store. We have a fee if we want to park our car in front of our own store. They are being nickeled and dimed to death. The fees, we are called Taxachusetts for a reason, and it's not because our sales tax is higher than New York. We have 6.25 and theirs is over 8%. And what we're called Taxachusetts is the multiplicity of our taxes. You look at your phone bill, you probably have 5 taxes on there.
Yeah.
One is for advertising, and guess what? It's because they have their name Verizon or AT&T, whatever that is, they're advertising tax because you're paying for their name on your bill.
But who approves this? Who looks at this stuff and says, who in our legislature looks at this and says, okay, sounds like a great idea, let's go ahead. I'll vote yes. I mean, don't these people, where are the people that are saying, oh, wait a second here,
for me, which was gonna make me more money in the time limit that you have. If, like up at where we live, a lot of people go to make their big purchases up in New Hampshire, because New Hampshire
Yeah.
doesn't have that tax.
Sorry,
Now,
they've done that.
if we would lower ours, what kind of business could we bring in? If we would lower our fees, if we would bite the bullet or whatever it is they're worried about, if we would bring it down and drop it down to a reasonable level, people would come here, especially from New York, when our taxes are lower. You know, people would move here and we could bring in thriving business,
Or just,
but they're worried
people
about
would
it.
just stay here and buy.
The head of the Chamber of Commerce, I forget her name, but she said that 87% of the businesses in Massachusetts, 20 less than 20 people. When 87% hire less than 20 people, that's small business. We have a lot of small businesses. They need that opportunity to grow. They need the freedom to hire on the freelancers, which is illegal at this moment. We need the freedom to hire on not just the freelancers, but the other businesses that will help them out. We've got a problem with mistakes that are being made and they're pushing them out of business. I'll give you an example. We had a man who owned a restaurant in Orange, and he hired kids under the minimum wage after school hours for a temporary time, and he paid his fee to do so. By law, he can do that. After 2 years, he ends up getting fined $17,000 because he did not reapply for that fee. He didn't pay that fee again, reapply. He did not know. He thought it was a one-time thing. He didn't know you had to do it every so many months. And because of that, instead of working with him, fining him $17,000 made him go bankrupt and out of business.
Right. Instead of saying, excuse me, you forgot this, but
Yes.
that's okay, you forgot this, we didn't tell
And-
you.
Yes,
We'll work this
intentional
out
and
with you.
unintentional. There are things, there's a small businessman bill of rights that's been drafted. And one of those things in there is that for the freelancers, one of them is not to penalize those small businessmen for mistakes and errors that can be worked out between the house and these workers. We just really need to re-examine what we have before we start making them into laws. Example, the tax they had placed on computers and technology.
Yeah, the tech tax.
Yeah. And how poorly that went through. We need to re-examine some of those bills.
Sure, sure. In fact, a lot of companies ended up pulling up stakes as a result of that.
Yes.
And, well, let's get, the automatic gas tax is another example. There was a time when legislators would debate and vote on either raising the taxes or creating a new fee, as we were talking about earlier. And then you would have their names attached to that, and you knew who it was. And you did some work behind the automatic gas tax. My mentality on that is, well, of course they didn't want their names attached to that, because if you knew that Senator so-and-so or Representative so-and-so raised your taxes last year, that so-and-so would be voted out of office next year. Was this the impetus behind it? So it's just, what I say is the no accountability clause.
Yeah. No, I think that we needed to have, my team personally collected 1,700 signatures
Right.
for this. It's the precedent. It's not so much should gas be taxed. And we had to explain to the people, we're not out here saying that gas should not be taxed, that we are going to repeal
That
all
is a
taxes.
consumptive thing, and yes. that's
Where
right.
the problem is that if you're going to do it automatically without the vote of the people, if he's going to take that, no matter if it's a Democrat or Republican governor, no governor has the right to place it on the people like that.
Sure.
And so we're very thankful that it's going to be question number 1 on the ballot in
Yeah.
November. That we are going to ask the people, please vote that you want the right to have it debated. If they want to raise that tax, they should get to you and tell you why they're going to raise it. Where's those funds going to go? Multiple times we've had fees raised, such as renewing your driver's license. We've had the rates raised for the gas tax being raised from 21 cents to 24 cents, but that's going to keep going up. That's
Well,
just
Martha
at the
Foley
moment.
said it was only 10 cents.
Well, we all wish it was only 10 cents on a gallon. We'd be really happy. So we're looking to have reasons where's that money going?
Right, and here's the thing, when I was at the RMV meeting, which was quite literally right over here, over at Union Station, they implored to us, they said, oh no, this is gonna go for highway maintenance, roads and bridges. We all know that that's
That's the problem. That's the problem. The general fund, the general.
It all goes,
Yeah. That's the problem.
And then when they go ahead. But what I want to say is, even when you go into the general fund, what does that cover? And then suddenly we miraculously see that they voted themselves a new pay raise. Or what's happening right now, $20 million to get the State House remodeled without even estimates from contractors or their
Yes.
big union people. This is what we see.
It's
But-
9 million for the governor's office, it's 20 million
That's right.
for the Senate, and another 20 for the House. Now, when the governor's leaving office, he does not need to have his office remodeled at 9 million. Whoever comes in next may not like the cowboy print or whatever else is there.
Sure.
So we shouldn't have to pay for that 9 million there. But we also have other spending oversights, such as this convention center that they just voted to
Oh,
put
the
in.
one, what is it, $1 billion or something like that? What is it?
Yeah,
What's the number there?
yeah, I have, yes, I do have that. I have $1.1 billion. That's the initial spending
Just for a
cost.
convention center.
The problem with the convention center is that other convention centers around the country are closing right now. People do not have the money, they do not have the opportunity. When you go to a convention somewhere, you usually have to pay a considerable amount of money. There's just, you're gonna be in a bond, the Massachusetts citizens, this bond we're taking is for 40 years. It'll probably be $480 million extra. There's a decreased demand for it, the space, and we may end up with a bailout. So, the unused dollars usually go to reversions anyway.
But is that gonna be pushed through? Is that already a done deal? What
Yes,
is
it is. The House is closed, the Senate is closed for the season.
You know, in my younger days, I went to a lot of rock concerts over here at DCU, Springfield, Boston Garden. And I remember back in my young days paying $10, $12. And then as I got older, okay, it went up to 18, 20, 25. I went to my last rock concert I went to at Boston, the TD Center. I paid $125 just to go see a rock band. I could not afford the food. I could not afford the complimentary rock T-shirt. But this is what happens. You got a center like that, $1 billion. Just let's say somebody like you wanted to have a convention there, grassroots candidates or whatever. You could not afford it. You could not do that.
No.
So then, who are these people that would be going to this convention center?
Yeah, it's
What,
one of
the
those,
George
they
Soroses
think
of the
it's
world?
going to bring in business. If they have it, they will
What
come.
business? If there is no business.
Exactly. We have a similar situation up in Athol. We're putting in a market basket, we hope, because it's already been started to be built. It was
Right.
supposed to be open last October. It's still not open. Market basket's having issues.
Right.
We're not sure it's going to be open. We're hoping it's going to be open because, if we have it open, it's going to bring competition with Hannaford. That's our only local grocery store.
Right.
And people are excited about that competition, but you know what that's going to do? Hannaford's going to have to lay off some people.
Sure.
And you know what Hannaford's going to do? Those people that get laid off are going to go work at Market Basket. So those 5 cashiers and those 5 baggers and those 5 stockers that you thought were going to be employed are going to be just a shift from one building to another.
Exactly.
When we go to grocery stores, we don't go there saying, wow, I'm going to really earn money here. We go there and that's where we spend our money.
Right.
And while we're being thankful that we'll have
And
fresh
usually they're
produce,
mostly
that's
young kids
wonderful.
working behind the cashier. They're just.
What Massachusetts needs and what we need in our area is industry. We need manufacturing. If we
Right.
don't bring that back in, if we don't make it open for those kinds of businesses, we are not going to
And
survive.
that seems to be where we are now. I remember back in the late 90s, or just the turn of the millennium, that term of we're no longer a manufacturing industry nation anymore, we're a service industry. That seems to be the only opportunity that's out there. Getting a job part-time somewhere, Walmart, Target, Hannaford's, Market Basket, Stop and Shop. It really seems to be the only thing that's out there. As somebody at my age, who's worked all his life, of course, when I look around at what's open for my children, I'm wondering what's out there.
Exactly. I have 4 sons that are old enough to work. My 4th born is a senior this year at Mahar, but my oldest, like I said, he's driving an hour and 10 minutes. Driving an hour and 10 minutes every day to and from work. I have 2 boys that one of them just graduated from Greenfield Community College in engineering, and When you're talking about taxing them to get to work, where are those jobs to help them pay off those college bills, pay off those college loans? They're not here. But there is hope because we do have ways of doing it. And one of the things we can bring back for manufacturing is it's been suggested to me in our area, there's a lot of junk timber. Junk timber is not the white oaks or the red oaks, it's the trees that kind of only been less than 20 years old. They sprung up. In order to tend the forest, you need to go through and clean and clear out the forest. So one of the things we could do with that junk timber is we could do our own wood pellets. We could have a wood pellet manufacturing plant.
That's incredible, yeah.
There's so many places that need to be harvested. People that have their land in conservation, in order to keep the forest and to have it tended properly, we need to go through and thin.
And these people are being taxed because they own so much property.
Absolutely. Why couldn't they sell off some of their junk timber? Why couldn't we use that in wood pellets for wood pellet stoves, etc.? There is a market, there's a need. People are using more and more of it as they're trying to be conscious of not using oil or not using, so this is recycling, so to speak, by using those things. So it would be something that our area is considering, and it's one of the ways that we could, if we could get some of that established up in our area, it would really be helpful. Because back about 100 years ago, most all those trees were cleared out. Massachusetts was vacant. There weren't trees. So these forests that have grown up since have kind of, we could be in for like California, some serious forest fires if they're intended.
That's a good point. Again, I just told you I was out at Tolland State Forest. I was spending a vacation out there. I went for, not only did I camp at the park itself, but my wife and I, we like to actually go out there and do a couple of days roughing it. And we went out throughout the state forest and we roughed it for a couple of days. We went out there. And one of the things that struck me when I was out there in the middle of nowhere was that the thickness of the forest. You would run into sections of the forest where you could see old growth and stuff that had been there a while. But it was tough to get through even though there were trails. And the first thing I thought about to myself was, what if we have a drought? What if there's a forest fire? What if, this place would go up in flames. We don't have money, the fire departments, the resources.
There you go.
And of course, we're out there in western Massachusetts, so by the time the fire department arrived, they're being called an hour away from somewhere else. They wouldn't be able to do this. So that's a very good idea. One of the things I want to move on to is get to some policy specifics here. And one of the things I want to talk about, and if you don't have the answer to this, just tell us what you think about this. Some of the things that have been going on in the news, and one of the thing is what went on with DCF, Department of Children and Families. We have the Justina Pelletier case, Jeremiah Oliver case. There was a child here in Grafton that under DCF care that was found dead. These guys have been handed more money. It's like the typical knee-jerk Democrat response to just throw more money at the problem. And it seems to be that this agency is not only out of control, but there just doesn't seem to be any type of accountability going on here. And here in Massachusetts, and I've done, I want to digress a little bit here. One of the things that I've done on the Meat and Potato Show is I've actually done not only a blog expose, but a video expose on what we call CPS abuse, Child Protective Services. And there's countless stories, countless literature. Everything's all in my blog if you need a reference to that. About just the power that these agencies have now. And again, getting back to Justina Pelletier and the Jeremiah Oliver, it's like they just went ahead and did this stuff. And again, Deval Patrick could have just signed an executive order saying, let her go, let it not happen. He did not, but we have, this is an alphabet agency, and I'm not going to continue on anymore. I think you know where I'm going here.
Exactly. On my push card, one of the very first things it says is protecting our children.
Right.
And protecting our children is because DCF has been taking them at an alarming rate.
$4,000 signed by the Clinton administration. You get $4,000 to take a child, place it into foster care.
We have some serious issues already. In March, this year of March, it was the 26th of March to be exact, the Suzanne Bump, the auditor, did an audit on DCF. In that audit, they found 25 matching addresses for level 2 and 3 sex offenders. 25 matching addresses. DCF said, well, it's actually an uncle, he doesn't live there anymore, he only lived there for a short time. You're putting children at risk. When they said it was an apartment building, the foster family didn't even know that the level 2 or 3 was living upstairs. They didn't know he was level 2 or 3. When you are putting children at risk, you are doing it irresponsibly.
Yeah.
They have been finding fault with them multiple times. They used to be DSS, Department of Social Services. They changed the name, but they didn't change.
Well, they
Olga,
changed the name to
lieutenant.
protect the guilty.
She's been involved all these years,
Yeah.
27 years being involved,
Yeah.
and she's still involved when they changed the name. And it's not just Massachusetts; it's the whole wrong.
Everywhere.
Everywhere is wrong.
It's everywhere.
But what we have here in Massachusetts is something those other states don't have, and it's making us number 49 on the list of worst of all the states.
Okay.
And it's the law. The law says that for reasonable cause, a child can be removed from your home. So it's up to the jurisdiction of the social worker. Well, I don't like what happened, and that's why Justina Pelletier got removed. She got removed because he didn't like the attitude of the parents. He thought they must be bullying. Well, guess what? This daughter is not being treated right. It's the parents that are putting that disease into her mind. And so because he saw that, he ran upstairs. Psychosomatic now, it's that disease. Oh yes, I agree. So they both got and collaborated together. So then they said, these parents aren't fit to take care of her.
Yeah.
We're not going to let them have another opinion because they've had too many opinions already. They took the child to protect him from the parents because he didn't like the attitude of the parents. And that's what that was about. 47 other states have changed the law. The
Yeah.
wording of the law says no reasonable doubt. With no reasonable doubt, you have to have substantial proof.
Yes.
You cannot remove them just because you have a good cause, a reasonable cause.
Or you feel something. Right?
Exactly.
This is what
In
I saw
Section
and when I
51B.
was doing my research, right?
Absolutely. Bill number, absolutely, it's
Yeah, please.
absolutely, it's in chapter 119 of our to me laws. This is very important to me. 51B needs to be changed. It's currently under that section. I called back in February to Dennis Rosa, who is Democrat, who is specialized on this, and he's the one that pointed out that error in our bill system, that it would say reasonable cause instead of no reasonable doubt. Calling his office, they said, well, where do you live? I said, I live in Orange, Massachusetts. They said Greenfield has the worst record in the state for removing children that they should not be removing from those homes. There are 29 DCF offices in the state of Massachusetts. Only 29 offices, and Greenfield has the worst. What makes it the worst? I'll tell you, because when little Jeremiah Oliver was removed from, we couldn't find him, and that press that came out in February, since that time, they were worried about losing more children. So what they did is they went out and took a whole bunch more children.
Oh my God.
They doubled up on how
Are
many
you
children they had.
kidding me?
So much so that one of the attorneys in Greenfield told one of my friends, said, look, I can't get back to you in your case because my workload has doubled.
Instead of stopping and investigating, they said, oh, let's gather more just to be sure.
This is why they've had to increase the number. They got 139.
I know, there was
warning
some of the
orders.
research, yeah, right, some of the research I did, that more money, something like $9 million was added to it, and there was
36.
36,
but-
and there were a whole bunch more social workers that then were training
Absolutely.
and getting ready. So instead
Right.
of stopping and
Correct.
looking at what they were doing wrong, they just, well, like I said, they just threw more money
Absolutely,
at it.
absolutely. A lot of people think that there's a lot more children out there that need to be protected, so we need to take more of them. What they need to stop doing is this: they need to stop taking the children and start evaluating why they're there. When DCF's own records show that 18% is less than 1 out of 5. 18% that they put back with their biological parents come back into the system because they're at risk, they're in danger. 18%, that's 1 out of 5. So what does that say? That says 4 out of every 5 children that are being removed should not be removed. Your rate of dying is 6 times.
Sure.
6 times more likely. You are
Right.
4 times more likely to be abused in foster care system. And it's not saying that foster parents are the villains. They're not. It's often one of the children, one of the other foster care children. They're stressed. They're out and upset about things. They've been removed from their environment. They perpetrate abuse. When the hospitals themselves, their records show that 1 out of every 4 children in foster care has been either sexually or physically abused. 1 out of every 4. Guess how many are talking? So you can guess about half the children that go into foster care have something happen. That's really bad. These children are at risk.
This is a
We
whole
need to
generation.
protect them.
It's a whole generation too.
If we reduce the numbers, each caseworker now has over 20 children. If we reduce those numbers and gave each of the caseworkers maybe 5 or 6, don't you think they could handle that?
Of course.
If we cut the numbers down to 10 and half, like I'm suggesting, if we removed all the extra children, the ones that I can't wear makeup and I can't date boys and I don't get a cell phone because mom won't let me. I'm gonna say mom abused me so I can go live with somebody else.
Yeah.
And if I can go live with somebody
That-
else, then I get my own.
That was in
friend.
my research. That was
We
it.
have that. I have examples of that.
Yeah.
There are people in good families. I have a girl right now, her name is Tia. I thank you, Tia, for sending to me. She has sent me several notices. Her baby was 2 days old at the hospital. She had a baby removed from her because she has a mental disability. She says, there's nothing wrong with me. I would never hurt my baby. I've never hurt any children. But because I think differently and my mind functions different, they're going to take the baby from me. She lives with her parents. Her parents want to help raise that child. And instead, they took the child, and the child's with a Mennonite family right now. She says, my little girl comes in hot tights, hot itchy tights and a dress. She says, my daughter's not Mennonite. She says, I want my daughter back. Her caseworker is one that has several people I've been talking with in the Greenfield area, and she does not reunite families. She is part of removing them, whether she was upset with her own parents or whether she's even licensed, as a third of the caseworkers are not licensed.
Really?
They don't have children of, 1/3 does not have children of their own, have never had, and
A lot of
1/3 is not
friends have
licensed. If you are not a parent, if you have not been licensed, and here you are having a vendetta against your own
I should have
parents,
met you 6 months
you
ago
are
when I was
removing
writing the
this.
expose. Oh
Absolutely.
my God.
Absolutely.
I never knew this.
So we need to change the wording of the law so we can protect more children. Yes, there are children at risk. The whole reason the DCF was made was so that we could protect the ones at risk. But what they've done is become bloated. They've taken in way too many children that are not at risk. They want, and they want to get what they want. And the girls know how to work the system. 13, 14 years old. Their friends tell them how. They tell them at school, oh, if your parents do anything, you tell us. We'll take care of you. Exactly. And this is the problem that we have. We need to protect the children, protect the families, give them a shot. You know, parents went and got drunk, they removed the kids. Maybe those parents only got drunk that one time because something terrible happened.
Or maybe it was just a family party.
And you remove the children.
You had a family party? It is like
Reasonable cause means because the social worker has a good reason, she can do it. And it could be rumor mill. Your neighbor can have a vendetta against you. Those kids are always out. They're never clean. They're never kept up. But maybe not kept up to a pretty princess standards, but maybe they're having a lot of fun in the backyard.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
And so
My kids
we
were
want
like
to
that.
win.
My kids were like that. They spent their entire life playing in the woods and playing
They
in the
need to.
backyard, and I ran into that.
And DCF does have good laws in there. They say in the first 7 days, they need to be at a doctor's to make sure there was any abuse. But guess what's happening? 18%, only 18% are making it to the doctors. That's in the DCF audit.
That's in the DCF order.
That is correct. They found that only 18%, they're supposed to go back again to the doctors in 30 days.
I can't-
They're not making it in 30
I can't
days.
send my kid into school this September without all the physicals, the inoculations. Every year I've got to do this. Every year. How is this bringing us back to the first question? Everyone's gone off the rails here. How is this happening?
Because they're not following the rules. The rules are already made. They already said if they're not enforcing them, what's the point of having them? That's the problem. The laws for DCF are already there. They are not following them. As I just said, 17% have gone to the doctors in the first 7 days. Then it was 18% in the next 30 days.
Wow.
When only those low numbers, you cannot justify that. There is no justification for that. They are not doing their job. Well, they're saying it's because we have too many cases. That's because you've been taking children at an alarming rate. DCF has no business removing them. They need to change how they're removing them and who is responsible for removing those children.
Segues into the next piece, that we have all these illegal children now being flown in.
It depends on your definition of children, and that's where the crux
Illegal,
lies.
I know, exactly. But my point is like I said to you, I've got to, every year, I've got to bring my daughter in for her physical or exam, get all that paperwork together, and make sure that all my ducks are in a row before she can attend that first day of class. Are all these things being waved aside to just allow these children to enter the school system hook or by crook, one way or the other. But the general question here I want to ask is how do you feel? What is your opinion? What is your campaign's position on what is going on right now with this influx that we're getting?
The
And
city-
again, what the hell has happened here?
The city of Lynn, back in 2010, had about 10 illegal children attending their schools. Last year, they had over 300 in 3 years. And that's not including what happened this year. This year, they say there's 57,000 that have crossed the border this year of 2014. That is not, that's an invasion.
Do
That
we
is
have
not
a
just
number
border.
here in Massachusetts? Do we? I know I see a lot of different numbers.
No, because we don't know, because when
We're
the
not
president
allowed to
came
ask.
in, when the president came into Worcester, to the high school, to give the address to
Right.
the graduates,
Right, other vote tax.
3 other airplanes came in that same day, loaded with illegals,
Really?
into the same airport, and then 2 other planes went down further towards the Cape. So that was 5 just on that day. Now, Deval Patrick just came out and announced that, hey, you know, we've been asked to house 1,000. Does that, what he said, but does that include the 5 planes that came in previous? Or is that besides the 5 we're not supposed to know about?
Supposedly we don't, what was that saying? It's not illegal to be illegal in Massachusetts?
That's the problem.
Who was that person?
And when you talk about children, let's define what children are. When you are coming over from Mexico, South America, Guatemala, you come over from there, you don't always know how old you are because you don't celebrate like Americans do your birthday every single year.
You don't even
So when they
have
ask you how old
documentation,
you are, you don't know how old you are. But if you're told, if you say you're 15, 16, or 17, you get to stay here and we'll give you free education so you can be somebody in America. They're going to lie and say how old any age that you give to them. Then when you've got guys with silver hair saying that they're 20 years old or 18 years old, you know they're lying.
Is this
They don't
happening?
know. Oh yes, oh yes. They don't know how old they are. We're talking children, and in our minds we're thinking 5 and 6 year olds.
Sure, right.
That's not what's coming over.
No.
We're talking children that are maybe 20 saying they're 18 and 17.
And let's talk about let's talk about anywhere from 16 to 19 years old. I'm sorry, I grew up out in Northborough, and it was a different time, and it was a different type of mind. Over the past 3 or 4 years, I moved to Worcester, and the difference from teenagers that I knew in Northborough and the teenagers that my sons grew up with when we lived out in Northborough to the teenagers that I've met here in Worcester, it is like night and day. I mean, a 16, 17-year-old boy or even a girl, they're not a 16, 17-year-old boy or girl. They're not. So what are we talking about here when we talk about somebody from a third world country or somebody with a completely different upbringing and mindset and cultural experience, claiming that they're, or even if they are 16 or 17, we're dealing with a completely different ball of wax here, aren't we?
When we had the Statue of Liberty first put up and people would come to that dock and that was the first lady that they would see, those were immigrants that came. And when they came here, they did not have their hands out expecting free anything. They came expecting to work hard with very little that they had. And when they came here as a family, they knew that they were going to do their best to contribute. And they wanted to learn the language. Some of them gave it up altogether. Some even changed their last names so they could be a part of America because they wanted to. And they didn't keep talking about the motherland and the father country as I'm going to go back to it, but as in the past.
They were here.
They were here.
If my mother was here, she'd tell you the same story.
And these kids that are coming across from the cultures aren't. They're coming here. Go to America. Go to America. If you're sick, if you have scabies, go to America. They'll fix you and then you come back here to us. They are not coming up here to be a part of America, to live in America, to want to be. They're coming back up here to get what they can get and leave. That's marauders.
Yeah. Well said. That's your campaign line. That is. That's your campaign line. Let's move on to some more issues that are going on here. In Connecticut, I went to the gun rally earlier this year because of what's going on with the gun legislation following the Sandy Hook incident down there. And that's another argument for another day. There is plenty of people that are saying that was a false flag. But we're seeing the same thing going on here in Massachusetts. Harder registration, stricter registration. And just yesterday, I was speaking to Danny Vincent McGonigal III about our Constitution and about the way our gun rights the way having a well-regulated militia is supposed to be originally the way it was supposed to. In fact, there is some notes from yesterday that I left up there. But we're seeing this systematic stripping away, not only in other states, but now it's happening here. And Massachusetts already has very strict gun control legislation. But as we all know with our legislatures, they're not happy enough with, it's like they want to take it to the next step. And I just want to hear what you have to say about where we are.
I was the only candidate from my district that did go to testify before DeLeo's committee.
Really?
With 4121 bill that it was a treacherous piece of legislation that was trying to be passed by Hank Naughton. I did go and testify personally, and I brought 7 of my teammates, and they testified also. Each one was bringing up different points against this bill. Besides suitability, which I'm sure you've heard plenty of, who's suitable, who determines suitability, there are other issues, such as in my area, our driveways, as I mentioned, are 3/4 miles, quarter-mile long driveways, and it takes a long time for the police to get there. When you suggest that you're going to penalize and put parents in jail if their child under 18 touches a firearm in their home, they get thrown into jail for 12 to 15 years. When you suggest that you have just made everyone under 18 a target. A babysitter who's in the home alone, and people say she can't touch a gun, she can't defend herself, she's now a target for anyone that wants to come into that home. Or what about myself? When my father was a United States Marshal, his life was threatened on, my life was threatened on. When we get out of jail, we're coming out after you and your family, and you're all dead. My name is Anderson. My maiden name was Anderson, the same spelling. I have not changed my name. My father, criminals that were put into jail, they're out now. It's been 25 years, it's been 30 years. They get out now. So for you to say that I can defend myself, or that my children cannot defend themselves in our home, or the parents go to jail for 12 to 15 years for not having them locked properly up, you've just made us all targets.
Yeah.
And that is against our constitutional right to defend ourselves.
Are they just pandering to the left or to the anti-gun or just looking for more
Well,
votes or looking for
that's
more
the other
money?
thing. What it is they want to put on your firearm ID the 1-800-SUICIDE hotline number, because they know if you own a gun, there's something mentally wrong with you. And that's why they're doing it. You have no business associating mental disability with firearms. None of those are combined. If you want to talk about mental issues, they should have it somewhere else. In this current bill that they're drafted for this gun legislation, you have to read all about schools and how to find out what kind of permissions that they need to have. Are they teaching diversity in the school? Then they can or they can't have this person. When would you ever think of going to a gun bill to learn about what has to happen in your school to find out who's supposed to and who's not allowed to have one on that property there?
To a certain point, what you were saying, I had a moment of confusion there. It's like, where are we going with this? It's not, the right to defend yourself and to protect your family, quite literally, has nothing to do with all this other diversity and political correctness.
Exactly.
But yet somehow they want to, it's like they're trying to build a transformer here that just somehow we'll just attach this and we'll attach that and we'll attach that, and oh look, it doesn't work. Well, we'll just throw
Well,
more
this gun
money
bill
in.
has a lot of school legislation in there.
Yeah.
And it has no business being tied together.
Right.
And it didn't need to be in there at all. And it has nothing to do with gun safety whatsoever.
Let's move on here. You just said it, schools, Common Core. I've had the great opportunity to who came out to Pester, who came out to Shrewsbury, Mass, and listen to him speak about Common Core. A lot of states already there. What's amazing is that, and we all know about how the money got thrown in there through the stimulus bill. We're not going to rehash that. But again, I want to ask about you and your position on that, and are you seeing, as you go around through your cities and towns, are you seeing people saying, well, we're just finding out about this, and are they finding that? What's going on?
I'm actually talking to some teachers in the Athol school system and some of the surrounding Royalston systems. they are not happy with the Common Core
Of course not.
because they're not allowed to teach. I had a woman who said she was a teacher. She went over to Japan with this little bear and talked about all the adventures, all the places that the bear went, brought it back to the school. And one of the kids' questions was, well, what's the bear going to smell like? Because of being in all these strange places. And you can't even bring creative learning when the kids are asking questions. There's no room for it in this Common Core. You can't bring the teacher who's with the children day after day, understands how they learn. Each child learns differently. Some are visual learners, some are auditory learners, some are the tactile learners. I was a school teacher also.
So every kid, right.
And because they learn differently, you can't just formulate one kind of curriculum that can only be used one way, and that's all the time limit you have for it. Common Core has many errors in it, but one of them is not allowing teachers to teach, and that's a big one.
Absolutely. Karen, thank you so much. Let's talk about your campaign. What's next for you? Where are you heading? And how are things looking for you? Let's talk first about the campaign. How are things looking for you?
We're very excited. My team's very excited. I've been in all the 12 towns and talking to all the people. And as I shared, every child's different, every town is different. We've got different situations, and I'm just learning more and more about it because the people are sharing. You can have a string of credentials behind your name, and that means nothing to the people if you aren't asking them their opinion. If I'm sending you postcards about me, then it's all about me. It's not about me. This is a state rep position where it needs to be about the people and where they stand and what they need done. So I'm asking them, send me what you think needs to be represented in the House. Send me what you think is a major concern. The information that you know, you're a specialist in this area. Tell me about it. And so when they do send me those things, that makes me a better candidate because I can go to Boston truly representing our area, and that's very important.
Yeah, you seem very passionate about what I have had the chance to speak to a lot of candidates over the years. All of them are very passionate, but I've got to say there's something, I've got to say this, I'm saying it for the camera, there's something different that you are invested in this thing.
I have a reason to be. I have a mother of 6, and I have a reason to be. Like I said, my youngest is 3, my oldest is 25. I have 5 sons. Where are those jobs? Where are those jobs?
You've got to leave something for them. They're going to ask you, what did you do, Mom? What?
It's been told to me that if you don't like what's going on, you just vote with your feet and leave the state. But then who's going to take care of my grandmother? Who's going to take care of my sister and her family? What about my brother and his family? If I leave the state, I'm running away from the problem and not solving it.
Right.
We can solve this. We can change these things. We can protect our children. We can bring back those jobs that we need with industry and manufacturing. We can protect our elderly, and part of that is by lowering those taxes. We can make this the great state that it can be by voting it in and by talking about it. And when people bring me those information that they know, we work together on this, well, we've got a way to go, but we can do it.
Do you think we need more people participation in our government? Do you see something like that missing today, that everybody seems to think that, the representative, they'll take care of it? Do you think we need more people not only writing, but just showing up and going to those conference meetings, going to those committee meetings?
I don't think it's necessarily more people, because sometimes too many cooks spoil the stew.
Sure.
But I do think that if your state rep is not asking you your opinion, if you've never had your state rep come to your door, if any of those candidates don't come out and talk to you personally, how can they say that they're representing you? And that's what I'm telling the people. If I'm at your door and the other candidates aren't, how are they going to say they're representing you? If I haven't met you, how can I say I'm representing you? That's why I'm out there.
Yeah, I've never run into that. I've never run into that. In fact, the only reason why I've run into the candidates I've run into and rubbed shoulders with some of the representatives is because I decided to do the show. But I'm 51 years old. I would have to say from 18 up to about 2008 when I started the show, never met any of them. They've never come out, even during campaigns, even during the parades where they're marching with their sons. Never seen them. Never seen them. Never do they come to you and say, what's going on?
That's a shame. That's a shame. In our town, so that's what we're working on. I'm asking the people, send it to me. KarenAnderson2014.com. Send me what you know. Karen at KarenAnderson2014.com. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Karen Anderson, thank you very much.